What is the average time instantly, Richard?
Right.
Say my company. I've come to you to sell mine.
Let's assume you're ready to sell. You then have to find somebody to sell your business, produce what's called an information memorandum outlining the pros of your business, why people should buy it, and it goes to market. It can then go to market, and this depends on how big you are, of course. It could take longer, but it goes to market. You find some buyers. They come in. They all review it. You get, hopefully, offers. You pick one. They then go through lots of due diligence. 9-12 months would not be unreasonable and would be quite quick, unless you're doing a quick process, or you've got something lined up, or you're trying to, you need to sell it quick at below price. But it could take that long. It could take that long, and then it still fails right at the end. So bear in mind. Now, that's from the day you're ready, and I used the word, are you ready to sell? Because it could take you 2 years, 3 years to be ready to sell. And I think the decision is, for most people, are you running a lifestyle business, or are you trying to create an asset that you're emotionally detached from that you think is going to be worth money and you're going to sell? And once you've made that decision, it changes things because you treat it differently, right? Because when people come to do due diligence, they're looking at things like, have you done your tax returns right? Have you been taking more directors' family money out? Does it look, are they going to be caught by stuff that then hits your price? They look at your contracts and your customer contracts. If it's B2B, are they rolling? Are they long-term, 5 years? If you've got 5-year contracts with customers, you're going to get far more value for your business.
That's why we went to the home care, so we could produce.
You could do it,
revenue
and that's good. Recurring revenue, contracted revenue. Have you got a management team that's running this business that is not you?
Yeah, because they have to employ someone to replace me if
but
that was the case.
If the business falls apart when you're not there, it's not worth anything. Yeah. That's the lifestyle business of it, which is where that's
mine's
what you
a
hear.
Mixture, I'd say. We've discussed this. I would say mine's a mixture because it doesn't fall to pieces when I'm not there. But however, I still have involvement in it. So I think.
And there's nothing wrong. I don't want to over-egg that. I bought lots of businesses with the managers and the owners in place, but they stay around. They could stay around.
Is that like what you do?
It's like an earn-out. It could be 12 months. It could be 5 years. It depends on your next phase of where you're going. You might be approached by a larger company that actually wants you in their business to grow their division. And you get a payout, plus you get a bigger salary and you get more opportunities. So it depends where you're going. But the key thing, I think, is once you've made that decision, actually, this is something I want to sell. I want to sell it in 5 years' time. Start thinking now, who are the likely people to buy my business? So the usual candidates are there competitors out there who want to buy your business to grow theirs? Are there big firms out there that want extra volume? Those, you get better value for that.
There's a lot of disruption companies at the minute, buying companies out in our industry. One's a famous one, I probably shouldn't mention it, but they've bought a few out, a couple of people I know, and we're on a mentorship with him.
If you know that company, the question to then ask is there a minimum turnover that the big boy or the one in the market is looking for?
You seem to be buying companies that are having a revenue stream of 1.5 million to 3 million.
And if there's a trigger point, usually there's some sort of trigger point that makes it worth their while. They're not going to do small because the cost of doing acquisition is expensive, so it's not worth their while. Do you get a higher multiple? I just went through a journey with a security company, and if you're buying at sub 5 million, your multiples might be 2.5, but once you get to 30 million, your multiples are times 4. So we bought 6 companies at times 2, trying to make a company of 30 million plus, and then you sell it at times 4. So there's different strategies that you can apply. So in your industry, if the turnover and the better multiple is at 3 million, there's a trigger point. I don't know your industry well enough to say that's the point. You'll then already have a target in mind. You want to be 3 million with good contracts, good management team that can live with or without you, and a decent profit that you can then maximise out.
It's like Joe was saying, a £3 million plumbing heating company, doing that you can, do really well out of it. There's just risk elements of every single company, isn't there, where you're at. The comfortable number, I would say, is around about 3 million. As of what I know that I've spoken to various different companies out there. I interviewed a guy, he does about 12, 14 million, and he's like I've told you about Lincoln. He's absolutely smashed it. He's gone above expectation, because most companies, very rare for a local plumbing company, apart from Charlie Mullins, Pimlico, to do that. Actually just private customers and the odd contracts and stuff. Like, I think that company is about 8,000 jobs a month. So it's high turnover.
And look, there's a lot of work that's been done in terms of how do businesses get benefits out of doing an acquisition, because it's actually quite hard to make your money out of an acquisition. There's a couple of ways to do it. Usually there's a synergy. So you might buy a company that's very similar to yours, but you can merge the contracts in, but take their management team out. So all of a sudden their profits jump after acquisition. So that makes it worthwhile. Quite difficult to do, but the other way is, as I said, you're buying because you're buying for scale, because actually your ambition is to get to 10 million, because at 10 million you can do it. But you're not going to grow to 10 million, let's be honest, organically.
No, absolutely no chance.
So you go out and buy 5 firms, you bolt them together. By the time you've bolted them together, you then got you've got a business worth 10 million, making a profit that you can hopefully sell at a higher multiple than you bought them. I mean, that's the golden dream, isn't it? So
absolutely. Like when you get, so for instance, say I come to you 2 years before getting ready to sell. So would your advice be stop exploiting your company for, a lot of people go out for food, meals, vans, whatever. Would you say you need to pull back as a director?
It's not necessarily. There's two reasons. There's 2 things to say about it. One is, if you keep in complete transparent records, you do what's called an add back to your earnings. So if your profits are 100,000 after your expenses, what you're going to be saying to the buyer is, these are the expenses I've taken out. They're 100. So we want you to pay for 150,000 of profit, not 100,000, because I can stop that.
You have to prove it.
You could just prove it. So you keep the records. But the more important point, there's an important point to caveat that with is it legal, right? Because if you're taking stuff out that is potentially has tax consequences, you've not been paying tax,
or you've not been aware of,
That's
the biggest,
and that I've seen that as a purchaser, you're liable because you bought the company shares for any tax liabilities. So you need to do your due diligence as a purchaser. So if they come across dodgy things, they'll hit your pricing.
A lot of people be scammed with that, haven't they? They've not done the due diligence right.
Oh you do either you don't spot it, or you do spot it and you have reserve held back
that makes
to
sense.
cover it.
Wow. Well,
so those are the kind of things when you're trying to sell your business it's different, as I said, to a lifestyle choice. You need to be transparent. You need to get things in right contracts in place. You need to start making sure all your legal documents are there to hand. You need to make sure all your contracts are good. One of the big challenges recently in industries like yours is the IR35 laws with subcontractors. So a lot of the big boys won't buy it unless you've got staff on your books, or they're going to go all over whether you've paid the right tax, are they the right contracts? Because if they're not, you can't sell your business.
That's interesting, because I think a lot of the big boys, I'm not going to mention who use nothing but subs, the internet companies, I think they may have an issue with that. Is that a relatively new thing, or is it been
new several years as such, but it's certainly focal in terms of their focus.
It depends when they bring out these things and then suddenly start policing them, don't they?
Well, that was the trigger point when the taxman started policing it, and it becomes an issue, and they go after people and they go after certain industries.
I get it.
That's when it becomes...
Which I would say now is the time that they're going to be doing these things, because of the situation of the economy and this particular government. They want money in as quick as they can. And they don't really care, I suppose, because they just hide again behind that paper, won't they?
So one, you might take a view, again, as an entrepreneur, you might take a view, say, I'll take a view on this. I'll just do it and worry about the consequences later. If you're serious about selling your business, it's not a good idea.
No.
Get your business right, because then your business model and your business is worth more money.
It's mental, isn't it?
You might not get the data. So there's usually a compromise between you take less cash while you're running it to get a bigger value at the end. That's sometimes...
Somebody who sold her company used to take about 70 grand a year. and he sold it, and he made, it worked out that he made, for 10 years, he cleared 150,000 plus. So what he did, he looked at the big picture in 10 years' time, that when he sold it, he'd have his reward in the time he'd said.
Yeah.
Right? Because I don't think people look at it like
That's
that.
it.
They look at it now instead of thinking, well, if I take, say, 70 grand now and I still have a very good lifestyle and everything's cool, and then I sell my business for multiple figures at the end of the journey, then I get my 150 grand reward after that. So does that mean per year? So then it becomes really worth it.
And again, using that phrase, lifestyle business, is it? And also letting go of your business, and you've called it like your baby and stuff like that, isn't it? You've got to.
You saw it with me, didn't you?
Yeah, you've got to. But you've got to you've got to say, right, actually, what is it that makes it attractive to other people and other buyers? What is it they're after?
One person said to me, Richard, he said, Mick, you are not M&R. Do you understand that? I'm like, what do you mean? He said, well, you think you are, but you're not, because it's a limited company, it's an entity, and when you start treating it as an entity for exactly what it's there to do, to give a good service, serve the people well, and serve you well, that's when it becomes that proper business. Okay, that's absolutely great. Is there anything else that you could add to anybody that's thinking of? I am thinking of doing what you said about buying companies and stuff like that, or just going into another area and replicating what I'm doing. I would,
if you stick to what you know. One, you're going to be able to raise finance far easier if you're buying something in an industry that you're already working in, and you're going to find those synergies, find those bolt-ons, and know what your exit plan is. Have a strategy in place, because if you have a strategy in place, when opportunities come along and they fit, it's an easy decision. If you don't have a strategy or a plan, you're always fumbling about. You're always thinking, should I do this? Should I do that? Do I have to make it? Should I spend this money? Because you're always continuously thinking about it.
Brilliant. Fantastic. So before we wrap this up, is there anything else you can... I can't really think of anything else which I've had of experiences of stuff, but I've certainly learnt that there is ways to scale and do things with guys like yourself, because I think you guys get a bit of a bad reputation, especially with tradesmen, like, ooh, everyone's trying to rip each other off now. I suppose most tradesmen that make it are usually from a background of distrust because of where they come from, so we don't understand it. But when you meet someone like yourself and you start to understand it, you start, and it sounds a bit sad, you start to get a bit excited at the possibilities of what you can offer and where we can go with it. So I've learned that, I've spoken to you a few times. I think I've learned more in this podcast than I've ever learned about finance. So that's been really beneficial to me, and I hope it's been beneficial to anybody else.
I'm glad to hear that. And I think that's the difference is, I'm not unique, but we are quite different in that I've got a team who we are advisors first, and we raise finance for people, and that's what we do. Whereas there's a lot of brokers out there who don't have a blooming clue, to be honest, about the actual business needs, and they're there to sell a product.
Well, that's what exactly.
And you get cold called. A guy, do you know, a company called my office 3-4 months ago. He said, "Oh, you're Pilot for Richard. I've got you £25,000 that you can have tomorrow. Draw down." I said, "You what?" I said, "Yes, 25. You're pre-credit approved." I said, "Do you know who we are? You're Pilot Fish." Yeah. I said, "Do you know who we are? And you just you've phoned up to sell me. I've got 25 grand." He said, yes. He was going to charge 10% commission on his loan, right? So after a while, I played him along, and then I lost my rag, and I said, "You know who the hell I am and what I do for a living." And so what worries and scared me about that call was not the fact that he called me.
Salesman.
Is that he is calling 100 people a day,
and
some of them are doing it, and they don't know that they're buying the wrong product and paying extortionate fees. That gives the industry a bad name, and that's exactly what I was going to say. So in your industry, my industry is the same. You get those people adopting those practices, whereas you need to find person you can trust, work with, build relationships with, who knows what they're doing. And I'm not unique. There are others out there. Of course there are.
I think you're doing yourself a distrust there. I found you unique, what you've done for me, and I really appreciate it.
That's right, mate.
And it's been a pleasure to have you on. Thank you very much. Right, guys, so I hope you've enjoyed that. Could you do me all a favour, please? For me to do more of these podcasts and get them out there, can you please go and like and subscribe to any channels that I'm doing and show me some support? It's really beneficial to me, and then I can bring better guests on, because the more views and followers we get, I can bring better guests on. Now, I'm not saying better than Richard. I mean at this level because they're very hard to get on, and they've got very busy people and they've got lots of time. So it is difficult to get guests on. The more I get known for doing this, then I'm going to get the quality of guests like Richard on there. So I hope you all have a good time. Your business is doing well. And don't forget, guys, don't get left out in the cold.